keep going down to verse 11. Because David starts rejoicing in God. And if you read all the way down, he says, verse 11, don't withhold your tender mercies. In verse 13, be pleased to deliver me. Verse 15, let those be confounded, the ones that are against me. But look at verse 16. Let all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. What does David start doing down in the pits? Kind of what happens in Pilgrim's Progress, if you've ever read that monumental work of John Bunyan. Do you remember they were in the Doubter's Castle, or whatever it's called? The Giant of Despair is getting them down, and they're all chained in this dark prison cell. And all of a sudden, Christian or Faithful, I don't remember which one did it, but one of them said, "Oh, wait a minute. We're supposed to rejoice always, and we're supposed to always praise the Lord." And so they started rejoicing, even though they didn't feel like it. And you remember the light came on and the bars fell off and the doors flung open and the giant fell over. I mean, Bunyan was so graphic. But what he said is, if we're in the pit of whatever is making us feel distant from God, if we do what it says in verse 16, let all those who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. And I might add, even when you're in the pit, even when you're under the circumstances, even when you feel like everything is going against you, let those who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. Let such as love your salvation say continually, the Lord be magnified. The bottom line of life is this: who do you want to please? David says, I want to please the Lord. And there's only two choices we have. Either we please God in one way or another, or we seek to please ourselves. And David wanted God to be pleased. And so David, verses 11 through 17, rejoices in God. And then finally, two things show up in verses 16 and 17. Here's the last thing we're going to see. David in this time starts interceding for others. Look what he says in verse 16. He isn't just thinking of himself in the pit. He says, let all those who seek you. All of a sudden he's saying, hey, there's probably other people that are under the pit of circumstance or defeat or sin or bad habits. He says, let all those rejoice in you. He starts thinking of others. Verse 4 is the same thing earlier. At the beginning of verse 4, he says this, blessed is a man who makes the Lord's trust. See, he's thinking of others. It's not just David that God's dealing with. He's starting to intercede for others. And the neat thing is that though at times we're desperate, God is not. He knows what's coming before it even starts. And God is managing those details. And so we, even in the depths, can be interceding for others.